presentation side. Okay, so again, to kind of recap what the plan is for the rest of the meeting today, we're going to do a half intro for Pegasus pilots for those who need to be caught up to speed. And the rest of the half, I like to call it a trial run, because we've been talking a lot about what we are and what we're doing, but no one's ever actually demoed what our GBMs or beams or whatever it's going to look like. So hopefully today, with the finite time we have, we can kind of give you an idea for what these actual lectures may be like. I know that PowerPoint isn't the most exciting way of learning, but with certain things like the regulations and all that fun jazz, it is a requirement. And we're going to do what we can for our presentation. So the idea is that we're going to get you familiar with who we are, what we're doing, right? The philosophical questions: why are we here? Why do we exist? And then we're also going to give you a free trial of the club. Hopefully by the end of the presentation, you will have an idea for what Pegasus Pilots actually is. And then we're going to give you an exposure. We're going to start right away by going over a recent aircraft incident that occurred. Thankfully, no one died this time. But we're going to go over, hey, look, it happens. It's the flying business. It happens. We're going to go over the event, and we're going to use it as a means of providing coverage for some of the concepts that are relevant in aviation. All right, that being said, let's see, there it is. Okay, I am not going to read all of this. You can read this on your own, because I'm going to share that to you. But our goal here with Pegasus Pilots is that UCF, there's tons of great opportunities for aerospace people. I think that's something we can all agree upon. But there is nothing for people who want to fly planes yet. And we're trying to fill in that gap. We're trying to fill in that vacuum, and hence that's what Pegasus Pilots is all about. So by a show of hands, and this should be about half the room, how many of you guys are familiar with the EGS lecture? Yeah, it's looking, it's like, okay, good. Okay, that's more people. Okay, not too surprising considering next in engineering and Pegasus Pilots. The reason why I say that is because when we had our outreach presentation, it was for the EGS lecture. We had like, Abby, you gave me, by the way, this is Abby. She's been giving me a phenomenal hand with making this happen. There's a lot of people here individually I've been working with to make this happen. So thank you to all of you who are here, by the way. Me and Abby went up for the presentation, and we were expecting like 40 to 50 people at most. Joined the Discord, and we got like 200, and we're like, that's a lot, in a good way. So we're just trying to fill in that gap, trying to fill in that vacuum. And that's what we're all about. Aside from the typical stuff for what a club's gonna do, like, we're gonna do socials, look at how unique we are, right? Okay, yes, clubs are always gonna do that. The way I like to describe it is that Pegasus Pilots will work as much and as hard as possible to make any type of pressure or anything that might otherwise let you pursue a pilot's license or something of the sort. We want to take the pressure off you. If it's as simple as introducing you to the basics, we'll do that. If you have a question about which medical examiner to see, we'll also do that. And little things like that. So things as little as that to things as big as paying for and giving people free flights. While we cannot give you, I saw your eyebrows going, oh, yeah, oh, that's right. That's what we're hoping to do. We know that it's expensive to provide a scholarship for flying. That's like 10,000 bucks. But a discovery flight, which is we fly a plane for the first time, it's probably $200-300 at most, and that's really stretching it. So with money and time, we can certainly make that happen. And that is a great way to get people started in something they otherwise might not consider. After the EGS presentation, I had a handful of people come to me and say, I never thought about flying, but now that you kind of laid it out there, it's kind of enticing. You know it is, it's over here. So this email, I'm not going to read it to you. This is just to highlight the progress that we've made. Again, it's one thing to say that we've been doing stuff. We're going to be an RSO, we're going to be a club, but to show you the proof in the pudding, here it is. Now, like I said, the important details, we have a sponsor, we have a faculty member, that's the biggest part, and we're waiting to be approved. That's it. So, any questions thus far regarding everything I just talked about for Pegasus Pilots from anybody in the audience? Question?
Who's your advisor?
Dr. Florian Jensch, thank you for asking. So, to get an advisor, you just have to have a professor, a faculty member. We were expecting, at minimum, just to have somebody, and Abby and Wesley, thank you guys for coming up. They were there with me, and we got to meet with them. So he is the chair of the psych department, and he used to be a commercial pilot, CFI, which is a certified flight instructor. He had cancer, so the medical got lapsed, but that's like way more than we thought. We were thinking we were going to get just a random professor, but we got that guy, which is great. And then he's also been doing human factors research with the FAA since the 1990s. So we have someone who's qualified. Yeah, I know, right? You're like, ooh, I know. So we're very, very happy to have this as sponsor. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
I hope it does. Okay, cool. Any more questions? Question?
I was going to ask sacrifice to pilot the plane.
Who's going to be the sacrifice? Yeah. Hopefully me. But,
So like after you die, who's gonna do it after?
No.
who's going to be that? We don't, you know, like there's the presidential line of succession. We're going to have something similar for who's going to go up every time the plane crashes.
Designated survivor.
Oh, okay. Well, when we're doing I'm sure you've heard it. You were there actually when we did the meeting this month, right? I remember you. For building and flying the plane, which is, by the way, spoiler alert, one of our projects. When that happens, we're going to be doing it, of course. I know it's a joke question, but I know that there's some people like they get into a plane, at the moment it moves, they're like, oh my God. And I don't want to scare those people away. Yes, there's no denial that this is obviously a risky endeavor, but we're hoping to get close coordination with the EAA, which is the Experimental Aircraft Association, and other people who are experienced to help us, right? So it stands for experimental, but hopefully also experienced, to have someone who knows what they're doing to give us some oversight for making it happen. So I hope that kind of answers your question about pilot sacrifice. Any other questions? No? Okay. All right, so I'm gonna just go through these pictures very quickly, but I told you about socials. Does that look like a cool social to you guys?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, that was cool. That was at Sun and Fun in Manhattan. Yes, it's an air show, it's fun. But you know what? You will learn things you otherwise wouldn't learn without going there and talking to them. By the way, this is my friend Cole. Cole, can you tell him how long I was talking to that guy?
Actually, an hour, not an exaggeration.
I had a lot of questions about this is the F-18F, it's a Super Hornet. This is VX-9, this is the Navy's flight test squadron. So they get the stuff from the flight test guys. This is before it goes out to the active fleets on the carriers. This is where they do the full picture, the full scope testing. This is also classic.
Oh yeah.
I can't help it. We might just go out there before we get there, who knows? Yeah, it would be, yeah. So things like this, you would not get anywhere else. And one thing I would give you as a piece of advice is talk to everyone. You never know who you're going to meet, and you never know what piece of career advice you're going to get. That is like a simplified way of saying it. For the purpose of time, I'm not going to talk too much longer about Sun and Fun, but I will show you some other cool pictures I got to convince you to go with us when we go. That's a picture my friend Kevin got in Blues. It's such a good photo. Couldn't believe he got that. He got to go up in a helicopter. They have a lot of helicopters there. And I have nothing wrong with someone disagreeing with me. I have ways of doing that.
That's great. Yeah.
Now, a lot of times there's structure, like, okay, well, you want to be a pilot, you got to do this, this, this. Well, this is a pretty easy way of looking at it, right? How do I say this? Okay, if you think that a military, if you think that a college degree is required to fly for the military, raise your hand. Just think, yes or no. Raise your hand. Do you think that the military requires a 4-year degree or not to fly? Yes or no? What do you guys think? Raise your hand or not? No, okay. You're the only one who said that. So it's a trick question. So yes and no. Technicality is that all branches of the military, except for the Army, require a 4-year degree. Every other branch requires a 4-year degree in something. Not aerospace, they can be something, right, Brandon? Yeah, I'm sorry. Just so you guys know, can I tell them? Brandon here, you're an AFROTC, and you're hoping to get a pilot slot, fingers crossed. And you just learned that an aerospace degree is not required. Yeah, just learned that. What's the thing? Poli-sci to fly? There's a bunch of sayings like that, because you don't need it can be an underwater basket, a 4-year degree is a 4-year degree. So things like that are really, really important. And our goal is to take any piece of information, no matter how big or small, like the situation you were in, and make it accessible to everyone. Because we're never going to push you down a path you don't want to go down or a path you don't belong, but the important part is that you have the information available so you can make the most informed decision. That is the whole point of those existing. All right, so let me make sure that's the right picture. Cool. So I was actually there. This is the Hurricane Hunters. That's their part-time job. They're the Air Force Reserve. So there was a guy like, yeah, I fly for United full-time, I do this as a part-time. I'm like, oh, okay. So, that's a part-time thing. That's the Air Force Reserve up in Mississippi. And I actually met a guy, Zach McDermott, how do you say it? He graduated in 2017 with a business degree. Any business majors? Yeah, that's something here. But he got a business degree, and that just goes to show that you need a aerospace engineering degree to make this happen. I'm trying to make that point clear. I'm not discouraging you from pursuing that degree if that's what you want, but I'm trying to highlight how things actually work. I got some other pictures. No, he did not send these to me. I just looked them up on Google. But they do some cool stuff. They have hurricanes, but this is a picture from a It was something out in the Pacific. They do like high altitude weather rivers, like way up in the sky. They do like all sorts of weird, smart science things I don't know of, but that's their thing. So that's him flying the C-130 to go into hurricanes, to research weather, and a bunch of other cool stuff. I'm not going to answer all these, don't worry. But what I'm trying to say is this is, again, to your disposal for any questions. That being said, I am, however, opening up the presentation for anybody in the audience who has any questions, no matter how big or small, about flying. Anything. We're just getting your license, the process, ask away. Or not, whatever you prefer. Any questions? Because we're going to go to icebreakers now if y'all are ready for this. Okay, no questions. And please, if you have any questions, come up and talk to us after. We're happy to help you. All right, I feel like that's that. That's our second icebreaker. Is it time, or our second question, I'm sorry. Is it time for icebreakers?
You guys want to do icebreakers, or you want to get done with the whole presentation?
That's up to them. What do you guys want to
You
do?
guys want to vote? Who wants to do the whole presentation first and then do icebreakers at the end?
Okay.
What is that?
Is that half or not? I can't tell.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8,
Someone count.
9. Was that 9? Okay, who wants to do it right now, icebreakers?
Oh, man, let's go over here.
Okay, then let's do this.
Okay. I'm glad to know you're social. That's good. Okay. Hey, we'll wrap up the rest of the presentation and keep it short and sweet. Again, hey, look, I'm a student. Been there, done that. I know you're tired. I'm going to try to keep it not boring. I know it's on Friday, so let's try to get this thing wrapped up. And have some pizza.
Good. Oh, pizza after. Yeah,
Pizza after this, too. I'm hungry. All right, so normally when we do our lectures and our PowerPoint presentations, we like to do what's called industry news. We're going to do that. So yes, we're going to expose you to concepts, but what better way to learn the industry than learning about current things happening? This is the way of doing that. Now, for today's presentation, that's going to be slightly altered, so that way you get a trial run of how we do things by highlighting the current event, or recent event, I should say. And this was Southern Airways Express Flight 246. They lost their engine. I should know that was their only engine. That's the important part. Not to say their only engine right after takeoff, and it was a successful event. The pilots did a phenomenal job of getting the plane down. We're just going to cover the relevant principles for this event. So we're going to talk about aircraft icing. I say question mark because I don't think, it doesn't seem like aircraft icing is the cause for this plane to go down, but we're just thinking that might be it. We're also going to take a look at the engine out emergency procedures, as well as the air traffic control action that they took after this incident happened, as well as the NTSB investigation that's currently going on. All right, so let's go over some aircraft facts. We're just going to kind of go into it. I don't like to baby our way into things. I just leave it as is. So I'm going to spit out all this ugly stuff that we call laws and regulation at you and kind of get you exposed. I may not be the most experienced guy in the room when it comes to things in life, but before doing this, before doing Pegasus pilots, Cole, you know this because you went to my high school. I started and I ran the aviation club in my high school, and I cannot stress the importance, I cannot stress the benefit that exposure has on people just by, going some fun, just by seeing things like this on a semi-regular basis. You'll be more comfortable and hence more likely to pursue something in aviation, whatever it is, and be successful. So that's just kind of our philosophy for why we do things. Again, this is a Cessna 208 Caravan. It's a single-engine turboprop. A turboprop, you might hear different types of power plant or engine systems. A turboprop is pretty simple. It's a propeller attached to a jet engine. That's it. Nothing more, nothing less. Jet engine, propeller, turboprop. Understood? Okay. The engine model isn't exactly relevant. Got to remember the specifics of it. The reason why I bring it up is because this is the design component that they were looking for when they were building this plane. It's a pretty big plane. John, you saw a Cessna 208 with me at the airport the other day. Isn't that a big plane? It's a big plane. And it's like a giant 172, just stretched out. So they had to get an engine that's powerful, reliable, and I said reliable for a reason. Okay, how do I say this? I drive a Toyota Corolla. Nice. But when a Toyota Corolla breaks down, you gotta go, wait, what? You know? Right. It's not like, I don't want to start a fight with other car manufacturers, but insert XYZ car breaking down, you're like, typical. But a Toyota Corolla? What? Yeah. Hey, this is aviation, by the way. I know we're talking about Toyotas, but you're in the right room. Gotta make sure I'm not scaring people away. So that's the reason why I mentioned the engine type, because it's a reliable engine. The fact that it got lost on the takeoff is kind of weird. So whatever happens as a consequence of the investigation, this is just telling you the law, the regulations it operates under All this means is this is a charter flight. It's not an airline where you fly Delta or American, that's different. That's part 121, this is part 135, and part DOT 80, which is a scheduled government-sponsored flight, to make it simple. All right, this is the plane. The actual plane that was involved in the crash, not just a plane. This is the actual Cessna 208 aircraft registration November 1983 X-ray that went down after takeoff, and it was just after takeoff at Dulles. So before we go further, let's just go over some basic flight facts. So this is the call sign on the radio. You're going to hear friendly 246, that's their call sign. Most airlines will use airline call sign. There's a couple unique ones, like I think British Airways uses Speedbird, you know. They got Speedbird, there's some other unique ones. Back when US Airways existed, it was like Cactus. If you ever hear that air traffic control tape, Cactus 1549, going for the Hudson, something like that. That's what that means, okay? They're flying from Dulles Airport over to Lancaster, Pennsylvania, Kilo Alpha Delta to Kilo Lima November Sierra. 7 souls on board, 2 crew, 5 passenger, and there was a 21-year-old Cessna 208. And then after landing on the highway, the scene in a little time of 6 hours. In Florida, if you have a car accident, you don't have to keep your car where it is. You can move it to the shoulder if it's safe to do so. Ask me how I know. But it's not what you think. It really isn't. No, it's not. I'll tell you later. I'll tell you later. But with the plane crash, a plane crash becomes like a federal property kind of thing. It's under the investigation of the NTSB and the FAA. So with the plane crash, it is so important that the scene is preserved. Like, there's actually seminars out there by the FAA talking to cops like, don't touch it, nothing. Like that's the seminar. Don't touch the plane, leave it be, let us touch it. I'm just trying to paint some generic concepts. I'm not going to go too much more in depth. Let's go over some other flight facts. Nearby at Washington Reagan National, there was a ground stop issued for weather. Again, it doesn't seem like weather's the cause of the crash, but it seems like that. I mean, the weather wasn't that good, I'll tell you that. And then they shut down the highway entirely. Big deal. All right, an important thing. A lot of times when aviation incidents happen, a lot of people like to jump to conclusions. They like to say, oh, well, this must have happened because this, and this. Like, I don't know if you guys saw in the news, there was that 747 out of Miami, had like an engine problem. I'm like, oh, Boeing, am I right? And I'm like, yeah, you look really smart by blaming Boeing on a General Electric engine problem. Okay, sure. So everyone knows that the media is very competent when it comes to understanding technical things. What are we worried about? I'm just trying to say, I am not blaming cons. I am not assuming anything. I am merely using this as an example to teach something. That's it. Bottom line. Shut up. I hope they're done. All right. This is the plane after they landed. Well, look, it's the same plane. It's not in the sky anymore. Go figure. Let's see. I'm very observant. Oh, what's that? I think that's hydraulic fluid. The propeller, you'll see, is actually bent. Looks like there's not much icing on the wing, which we may talk about later on. Let me get some better pictures so you guys can see better. Oh, okay, that's a bet problem. So, propellers, whether the engine is working or not, they're still spinning in the sky. It's called windmilling. Whatever happened, the propeller hit the ground. Now, I'm not an expert, but plane propellers are not supposed to hit the ground. So, I will say this. Remember, this is an exceptional situation. Everyone thinks that they can handle things, and it's like everyone has a pencil they get punched in the face, right? You're flying a little 208 trying to build up time for the airlines, and then you try to go on the highway. Yeah, it's very, very scary. One thing I'll also tell you is that during pilot training, to simulate an engine out in a single engine plane, your instructor's going to pull back the power. All right, lost your engine, land it, and you do it. But in real life, statistics actually show that most engine failures on planes like this are usually a partial but not a complete loss of power. So it's not a matter of, oh, we lost our engine. It's, are we losing our engine? And you spend precious time working out a problem as you bleed energy, bleed altitude and speed, and oh crap, we're close to the ground. So it cannot be understated what a great job they did to bring that plane down. So these are some more pictures I got. I'm not going to go through these too much longer, just to get you some context for what's going on. Oh look, the government's investigating a plane crash. Cool. So I'm trying to show you guys the aftermath, because most people don't see it. They document everything. Someone on the internet was complaining because they said he was taking a selfie. The American public, ladies and gentlemen. No, he is taking a picture of the angle of the flaps. Hate to break it to you. So I'm just trying to show you that's what they're doing after an accident. They're taking everything. Whether it's the angle of the flaps, the instruments in the cockpit. They're trying to preserve the seat as much as possible with this moving the plane is going to make it different. It's not going to be the same when you tow it to some hangar in the middle of nowhere and try to investigate it. So that's the reason why documentation is so important. Oh, traffic looks lovely around that time of day. All right, system principles, anti-ice and de-ice. Again, I'm not saying that icing is what caused this crash or what led to it, but teaching icing and the basics of it is a lot simpler than teaching you about a power plant and the potential failures and the problems and so on and so forth. So for the purposes of giving you that little test run of dipping your toes in the water to see what we're all about, this is our way of doing it. All right, let's make it simple. I think everybody here knows that on a plane, the wings make lift, right? Come on, up here. There you go. Make more. That's what my professor did. I'm doing it too. Let me make it simple for you. When an aircraft wing's shape is altered, it doesn't make lift the same way. Make sense? Okay, good. Trying to make it really simple. Now, when we add icing to the mixture, that can be catastrophic and extremely, extremely fatal. Although I like to keep the presentation upbeat and light, many people have died because of this very phenomenon right here. We like to say in aviation and in other safety critical industries that the things we do, the rules we follow are written in blood, and that is the biggest truth there is when it comes to the flying business, folks. Let's go over some basics over anti-ice and de-ice. So again, we cover that ice can be heavy and or unaerodynamic, meaning it's blocky, it's not some smooth shape. You ever go to like those fancy hotels and they have like a nice sculpture of ice? Yeah, plain icing is not that. It's kind of the opposite. It's not exactly this neat little sculpture, and again, they're heavy. Planes have weight. Adding weight via icing is not good, especially after takeoff and things of the sort. Again, I'm not saying this would happen here, just for the purpose of teaching, I'm trying to demonstrate that, all right? Anti-ice, you pretty much turn it on before you go into icing, so ice doesn't form. De-ice melts ice. That's simple. Also, I want to stress something important. I know that most, if not all of you, unless you're already licensed to fly, are going to walk out of here and forget most of this stuff. That's fine. I know this isn't class. I know it's not going to affect your GPA. You're great. Cool. All I care about is your exposure. I want you to look at this 5 months later. De-icing, I've heard of that before. That's all I care about, because planting the seed in your brain is the most important part. Like I said, I know that this isn't a class. I know it's just something extra. I don't care if you don't memorize it. I care that you're exposed to it. Okay. These are some photos courtesy of NASA. Believe it or not, the National Aeronautics and Space, that's the big one, space, right? Space Administration, also covers aeronautics, believe it or not. I know it's kind of hard to understand, but they do. So they do research on stuff like icing and things of the sort. And I'm just showing you some pictures. Oh, isn't that fun? That's what you dream about. Look at me, Mom, covering a sideways wing with ice. Living the dream, I think. I don't know. They're just doing some research on it. All jokes aside, it's an extremely important job. The data that we use in training to fly planes are based off studies like this. Without people doing work like this, I mean, this would kill you in a real plane. What do you want? Right? You're going to either get a crashed plane at the side of a mountain, or do this in a lab where it's a bit more controlled. This is the preferred way of doing it. Real quickly, I'm going to let you guys listen to a different voice for 1 minute and 48 seconds of a gentleman that used to fly DC-10s. It's this picture right here. All right, I'm going to show you guys that video really quickly. He is showing you an encounter in the plane that he flew with icing. And to be specific, he's going to talk about a certain structure called the horizontal stabilizer. That's this thing right here. That's the horizontal stabilizer, okay? So that's where the icing developed, and he's going to kind of describe to you what exactly occurred when he was flying the plane. And if you'll excuse me, I'm going to awkwardly listen to audio for the next 5 seconds. If you're a teacher, you have to. You just can't, It has to be, it has to have something.
Cloud tops at 10,000. The co-pilot is flying at this point. And at the outer marker, you were stabilized, you're down, you flaps out. And about 500 feet above the ground, he was moving the elevators, fairly large control inputs. And he said, feel this. And I grabbed the yoke, and there was a dead spot where you could move the elevators back and forth and get no response to the airplane. Larger control inputs would increase the pitch or decrease the pitch, and you could change the pitch also with the power. And at that point, we elected to continue the approach. We landed without incident, and taxied into the gate. As we arrived at the gate, I noticed that all the mechanics were standing off to the side pointing at something in the back of the airplane. After the people got off, we went down the jetway stairs and back to the horizontal stabilizer. There was about 11 inches of ice on the horizontal stabilizer, obviously blocking the airflow over the elevators to a great extent. And it actually looked almost like a railroad tie that someone had nailed onto the front of the horizontal stabilizer. It was a huge amount of ice, and we were only in the ice for a few minutes. So once again, that's how rapidly ice can build under certain conditions.
Take it from the guy himself, icing is not good for planes. I'm hoping that that's a more, who's letting this thing no. I'm hoping that's a better example of a demonstration. Yeah, shut up. I hope that's a better example of how icing can affect your plane. You guys ever seen Frozen, the movie? Yeah.
It's my favorite movie all the time.
Oh, it's your favorite movie?
All the time.
Oh, there you go. Well, I'll tell you what, you don't want to be frozen in a plane. Not good.
No.
Let it go. We can't fly anymore. Okay. Let's see. Any questions really quickly about icing before we move on? We just have a little bit after this and we'll pretty much be done. So for the stuff we just covered, any questions?
Can the ice be developed in a motor aircraft? Like
Icing can develop in all planes. So I'm glad you made that point because that was an older example, an older video. The guy died in 2013, so yeah. Older video, yes. Icing, I should be clear, is a meteorological phenomenon. Icing always exists, always will exist. It's one of those things that technology just has to counter. Newer ways of countering ice always does so. There's always research, there's always newer and better way of doing things, but icing will always be there. New planes are old. Like the planes that I fly, none of them are approved for flight into what's called known icing conditions. In other words, if I'm flying my Cessna or my Techno or whatever it was I flew, and I know per the weather reports, per the different temperatures at different altitudes, there's going to be some icing, and I crash my plane, the FAA is going to go, so, what was that about? And kind of, because you know that there's icing, and planes are not always built for that. Airliners and things of the sort, yes, but not all planes are built to fly into known icing. Does that kind of make sense? A little more? Awesome, good question. Yes?
So I know that they have de-icing on wings predominantly. Do they have de-icing on horizontal stabilizers?
That is a very good question. So to answer that question, I'll just cover a very brief principle. Icing develops on, of course, all parts of the plane, not equally, and to make it very simplified, it's called what the leading edge. The leading edge of the plane is where most icing develops. So anything that's like your wings, horizontal stabilizer, your tail, and then another thing is instruments, instrument icing. So to measure your altitude, your airspeed, and various parameters, we have things that stick outside of the plane. And those can get iced over, not good. So for that, yes, there is anti and de-icing equipment available on all of those surfaces. If you ever look at even smaller turboprops and things of the sort, you'll see like they have these things, it's called boots, like pneumatic boots. It'll literally expand and break the ice off. It's on the wing, it's on the tail, it's on the struts and all sorts of stuff. It's really cool stuff. So does that kind of answer the question about your, okay, good. Any more questions? I know you guys are excited about this. You've been waiting all week? Okay, cool. All right, so the last thing we're going to cover is the power plant failure. This is the part that is definitely it happened. It definitely was an engine problem. We just don't know what it was. So the relevant procedures, keep it short and sweet, is that when you lose your engine, one of the first things you got to do is you got to picture the best way. Here's the way we'll look at it. In flying, and in all things in life, what we should ideally do is plan for the worst and hope for the best. Try not to butcher it. Plan for the worst and hope for the best. Now, when you're doing this, that's basically what's happening. You are already planning for the worst. If you lose your engine, and you go, oh no, what's happening? And you see a field directly ahead of you, drop the nose, and you go for it. You don't try to, well, if I try to troubleshoot, no, you go for it, all right? Here's the reason why. So let me ask you this. What are you going to do if you continue to climb, and you try to restart the engine, but it doesn't start? What's the plan then? There is no plan. That's the point. There is no plan. You fall out of the sky. Exactly. Whoa, we're pilots now. Yeah, okay, good. We're learning. You fall out of the sky. So that's the reason why we do that. You go for the cornfield, or wherever it is, someone's house, a pool, a preschool, I don't know.
Really not a pretty cool.
It's in the pre-flight briefing, you know, go from preschool, 105 with your feet, yeah. You know, you go for your aiming point, and if the engine restarts, ta-da, it's like cherry on top. We don't have to land in the cornfield, let's go. But if it doesn't work, you're already prepared for the worst case scenario. That is generically the most simple principle to uniformly and accurately, that is to not deviate from accuracy of how flight operations work, describe what it's like to lose your engine in a plane, if you only have one engine. If you have more than one engine, good job. All right, so attempting restart, declaring an emergency. That's a big one. There's many cases where pilots are in not so good situations, and it's true. The situation is not bad. It's also good. It could be better, and so on and so forth. Could be worse, and that's actually the point. It really could be worse. And the concern is that you're digging yourself in a hole. And if you crash bad enough, you will literally dig yourself a hole. So the idea is that if you're ever in a bad spot, the best thing you can do is to call for help. There are specific procedures. We can cover that in our meetings. Sign up for Pegasus pilots, and we'll talk about that there. But call for help if it's needed. And you'll see in the air traffic control tapes, that's exactly what they did. They didn't waste time. They made their mayday call. We'll debrief the air traffic control tapes in just a moment. Let's see, emergency declared, POH specific procedures. Okay. Raise your hand if you've ever driven a car, and then you went to another car and it's different. Like, oh my God, this is a different car. It just handles different. That should be everyone, right? Okay. No one's going to go from an F-350 to a Corolla like, oh yeah, this is the same thing. Night and day. Okay, yeah. So with a plane, yes, that is true. Planes are different, believe it or not. But there isn't always time to figure out the differences. Like, all right, I lost my engine, but I've never flown this plane before. Where is the fuel selector? Okay, hold on, this is not good. There's no time for that. You have to do that beforehand and get specialized training for the plane and so on and so forth. And what I'm trying to say is that there is something called the POH, which is the pilot operating handbook. It's specific to each airframe, to each plane. Every POH is different, and thus every single procedure, different planes, will be different. It's that simple. Now, I'm just trying to say here that, yes, I gave you a generic answer for how to deal with it, but the CES 208 has its own procedures. We're not going to cover those, don't worry. But that's just to kind of highlight that you're hearing an extremely watered down version of what went down that day. And the last thing I will do to disrespect the crew is to simplify what they did, because what they did was extraordinary. And I am not in any way, shape, or form trying to water that down, okay? So, we talked about the POH specific procedures, factors affecting glide. For purposes of time and brevity, put it simply, engineers have determined for a plane there is a best speed to fly if you lose your engine, called best fly. You may know about that. That's what they flew. That's it. Yes, sir. Possible turn, all that means is that if you take off from a runway and you're below a certain altitude, you're not going to make it to the runway if you turn back. That's why it's called the impossible turn. And cool, I'd like to be flying. Do you remember us briefing that before takeoff? Like, okay, if we lose our engine below 1,000 feet, we're going to go on the highway. And then if we're above 1,000 feet, we're going to land there, you know, that kind of thing. That's the reason why. Because these are things that are time critical. There is no time to determine, okay, I think I see a field. Oh, wait, no, that's someone's house. I see it. There's no time for that. You have to do that beforehand and have a plan ready to be in place. All right, potential causes. The fuel could be contaminated. They could have run out of fuel. Not for this case, I'm sorry. This is talking about, in general, power plant failure scenarios. Insufficient fuel could be, South Nicole, Air Canada went for you. There's an airliner that lost fuel, or they had insufficient fuel because of a calculation error, going from kilograms to pounds or weight to something. I don't know what it was, but there was a calculation error, and a perfectly good airliner just lost its engines in flight. Go figure. So that's an example right there. Poor maintenance. Even if the plane is good, maintenance may not be good, and then the plane isn't good. That concept. And then internal mechanical failure, all these big fancy words. I know people like sophisticated words, so I try to use them. All right, it's time for the favorite part. Let's watch our reference videos. These are videos just to kind of show you the actual air traffic control tapes from the day of the incident, and let's watch it, yeah. So I'm going to show you at minimum this one right here. Sweet, okay. I'm going to try to skip through the stuff because I got to give you details. Yeah. Cool.
Ground 246 all star, runway 30 is 16,000, wind 340 and 10, fly runway heading, runway 30, clear for takeoff.
And real quick, I should note, again, there's two pilots here. The lady you're hearing was the first officer, the captain was a dude. You're not gonna hear him, but this is the division of roles in emergency. So there's like, okay, you handle the radios, I'll flight. No, you handle the radios, I'll flight. There's none of that stuff. There's divided roles so people know what to do when SHTF happens, basically. So that's what's happening here, okay? I'm not gonna try to interrupt the rest of the video, just so you can listen to it as is. And we might do the last video. I'm just gonna skip to the important part. It's gonna be like a 30, 45-second part. We'll mostly done, so yeah.
Runway 246, turn right, heading 340, and contact Potomac departure.
340, and contacting Potomac departure.
All right, watch that altitude, watch the airspeed. Oh, whoa, airspeed's going up and we're losing altitude. Why'd that happen?
Heading tower, show.
Tower, maybe,
Scans for 1 second. Air shuttle 60.5, stand by 1, friendly 246, say again. Friendly 246. Friendly 246, dog. Friendly 246, dog, sir.
The weather wasn't very good that day.
You're on the ground. Friendly 246, understand you're on the ground. We are dispatching emergency services to your location now.
Hold on.
Hold on. Yeah, you better hold on.
Okay, so what's the back of the aircraft?
Friendly 246, are you saying that you're evacuating the aircraft?
Okay, going on, runway 246. The runways from across the Wendy's and Aldi's.
Okay, well, that seems references.
From the Wendy's.
Can you imagine like you're in your life just when did like go there?
I love the rules on
Friendly 246.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing. How many passengers are on board?
We have 5 passengers and we've had 1,100 pounds of fuel.
All right, I'm just gonna go ahead and get ourselves over to the next video. I'm gonna mute it and I'm gonna talk. This was someone recreating in Microsoft Flight Simulator. Wonderful learning tool. It's great. So here, I'm gonna just talk really quickly and then I'm gonna let you do this. I'm gonna let you watch it and that will be the end of our meeting. I'm gonna say a couple things here. Number one, just to debrief that radio transmission that you guys heard. You may have noticed a couple of people. Oh, thank you. That would have been nice about 30 minutes ago.
Yeah. I didn't, my brain didn't click. I'm sorry.
Look, a lot of people like to see how other people handle a situation. Like, oh, you did that? I'll do it better. If I was there, I would have done all those things. Okay. Here's how we look at things. Unless you were there, unless you were in the scene, unless things were going on, you weren't there. It's that simple. And yes, of course you have to debrief. Of course you have to look at how they did things because that's how we get better. We constantly criticize the human factor because in flying, that is the only career, the only industry really, where if you screw up, it's not a matter of just losing money to the company, it's a couple people lose their lives. It's that simple. So there's a lot of things they did right, and if they did anything wrong, we'll know when the investigation comes out. But as far as we're concerned, no one died, got on the ground cool, it's all that matters. Let's go over some of the other debrief things. You saw that they were told to contact Potomac departure, that's another air traffic control station they would have contacted. They went back to the tower that they were just talking to, the one at the airport, because that makes sense. If they're talking to Potomac departure, some dude a couple hundred miles away, yeah, so we're next to the Wendy's and the Aldi's, right? So they did the right thing to go back to them. And you may have noticed that there was another aircraft that came in, Air Shuttle 240, and they got cut off. These are radios. Radios are not good, I know, I'm sorry. But they're reliable, that's it. Reliables are plain, stupid, simple. Our radios are stupid, simple, reliable, that's all that matters. Because in a plane, we need reliable. We don't need something that's super, super advanced. We need it to always work, and that's the point. Part of that means that it's just like an actual radio. It is an actual radio. If I'm talking and someone else presses their button to talk, it's going to make an awkward, stepped over sound, and yeah, we have an emergency, Wendy's and all these, all that weird stuff. That's what's going to happen. So I'm just trying to explain the technicality for why the audio sounded the way it did. Let me think. Okay, at the end, you guys remember that part where they were like, yeah, we got like 5 passengers and 1,100 pounds of fuel, all that stuff. In an emergency for aircraft, that's universal. It's always important to communicate the passengers on board, the souls on board, and to communicate the fuel. There's a couple reasons why. Let's say that this happened somewhere far from the nearest Wendy's or the nearest Aldi's, way out in the middle of nowhere. All right, so they're going to send rescue over to them. How many people? I don't know. So by getting this information, we are getting information to rescuers to know, okay, we either need 7 ambulances or 7 body bags, one of the two. Or fuel. If you're in the middle of the ocean in a hold, okay, so we have a problem with the electrical system, okay, and we're not sure what to do, okay, and we're just running out of gas. By telling your traffic control how much fuel you have an idea for how much time you have to work through the problem. Furthermore, if there's a crash, let's say this, you guys are engineers, so you can figure this out. If a plane crashes, if there's 2 plane crashes, one of them is full of fuel and the other one is not full of fuel, which one is statistically more likely to happen to fireball? That's the reason why. So it's not just, oh, well, they got X amount of hours of flight time. There are many things that seem like, just good information to know. It looks good on the news. They have 5 passengers. Okay, yes, that's true. But there is a practical safety reason behind it that exists. So I'm going to go ahead and skip forward to the important part where they start to lose their engine. This has some air traffic control tapes in there. You'll see. Don't sink. We're trying. Trying our best.
Don't actually say.
Yes. Pull up, don't sink.
Hello, Tower 7.
Tower, maybe,
Air Shuttle 6025, stand by 246 day again.
All right. We've all seen that asshole that cuts you off in their Civic. Wait till you see this. This is next level.
Starling 246. Starling 246.
No, I don't think they know this.
Yeah, the loud.
He's gonna tilt you that truck. Watch how close he goes. Watch how close he comes to that truck. It is so funny to watch.
All this knows, tell me how my driver.
Yes. The funniest
Starling
thing is
246, understand you're on the ground.
I got hit by a plane.
We are
Rear-ended by
I got rear-ended by a Cessna 201 on the highway, believe it or not, yeah.
And I don't know about you, but I'd be reporting and teleporting cars.
Yeah, that's another important part. But again, that's why I'm such a big fan of simulation tools, which the club we're going to use on a regular basis, because the cockpit is a horrible classroom. The simulator is a little bit better. And it's a way to replay things, it's a way to examine things, and it's one of our greatest learning tools that as pilots we have to do our jobs good and not suck. That being said, real quickly, any questions about the past, everything? Any questions at all, real quickly, before I go to the next slide? All right, cool. That's the end of our presentation. Thank you for listening. Thank you for showing up. We appreciate it. And we cannot wait to see what the spring semester brings for Pegasus pilots. Thank you again for your time. I appreciate it. All right, now what? Let's break the ice. Break the ice.